ladies and gentlemen, at this time we'd like to call to your attention the importance of using the street on.
Welcome to Honest Car Reviews. My name is Eric and this is the brand new Mercedes EQS 580. The EQS is a new chapter for Mercedes. Before we had the EQC, EQA and EQB, but this is based on a completely dedicated from the ground up EV architecture. So there's a lot of questions, thoughts, expectations, and we'll try to go through everyone. This is an EQS, which means that it has an S in its name, and therefore it is an electric S-Class. This needs to be put or tested, or my view when I look at this needs to be at a very, very high standard, which is the S-Class standard. But of course I will also compare it with the newly launched BMW i7 and soon coming to Europe Lucid Air. But we'll start from the exterior and what has shaped the exterior, because it is evident that this car has been designed with aerodynamics coming first. This bubbly and really uncreased front is the standout feature of the design. Well, not only that, but the whole shape of it all feels very unassuming. The major advantage by designing the EQS like this is the aerodynamics, and this is the most slippery car out there currently. With a drag coefficient of 0.2, the air resistance of this one is the lowest out there. And that together with a very large battery, over 100 kilowatt hour battery, you do have an impressive range. And that I will explain later has a great effect in the EV experience. And it can charge it maximum 200 kilowatt. It actually holds its charge or charging speed fairly decently, but since the battery is so big, I've tested this, from about 20 to 80%, it takes 30 minutes. And that is quite a long time when you look at other electric vehicles that can do the same charge in 18 minutes. The base price of this 580 is about 150,000 euros. The 450, which is the base model, costs from 125,000 euros. This is spec'd to 185,000 euro. This is not a cheap car by any means. 500 liters, and it's interesting that I have designed this like an SUV when you open the entire tailgate, not just this part like in a sedan. The power comes from both front and rear wheel drive, so it's four-wheel drive. Has 518 horsepower, 855 Newton meters. That's a lot of Newton meter. But this car weighs 2.6 tons. And when you compare with the new BMW i7 and the Lucid Air, this is 200 kilograms heavier. It does 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.3 seconds. But the thing with an S-Class is not only the exterior, it is truth be told, mainly the interior, because an S-Class is often a car that people want to be driven in, not drive. And I felt that was definitely the case in the internal combustion S-Class. So let's see if that's the same with the EQS. A nice feature is that when you open the door, I can have it in this position, so I can have it in whatever open position I want. But that does mean that the motors have to disengage for it to close. So if I start to move it, or I'm not unsure if I want to go out and in, you can feel a resistance in the mechanism. This car is not a long version. There's no short or long version like in the regular S-Class. But you see that the C-pillar is moved really far back. You can see how far back it actually is. Very different compared to regular S-Class. So that does mean that you have a lot of headroom. Luckily there's a large opening, so there's not really a problem. With the bench not being big enough for my legs in general, and the angle of this part being quite aggressively up, it's not a sit back and relax seating position. And the fit, just the finish, it's so plasticky. The way that you close the door is using this handle here, and just by touching it, I have quite a lot of creaks. And just by closing it, I can feel the panel flex and I can hear some creaks just by using it normally. The thing that pops is the hyper screen. One entire glass piece, but actually 3 screens. The digital gauge cluster, the main infotainment system, and of course the screen, touchable screen, that is dedicated for the passenger. This is the new steering wheel with haptic feedback and touch and so on. Doesn't work as good as previous version. The interior quite dark, but this extra option here costs about 3,000 euros. Yeah, also on the sides. If you remove or don't have the hyper screen, there will be some on the sides as well. You can see, open this up, you have a cup holder, you have wireless charging. Also have a wireless charging here. You have USB type C, and that's about it. Luckily, you do have some extra storage underneath here, a rather large one at that. Unfortunately, being in the driver's seat, I can't use the passenger screen, so I will have to actually go into the other seat. And basically it has the same features as in the main infotainment system, and you can see the response, rather slow. You get the point. There's some features that are kind of cool, but to be honest, I would much rather they have a simplified display. One aspect that Mercedes has done amazingly well is the throttle response. It is the best one I've actually experienced in any EV car. So smooth. A problem though is that they've tried to do the same thing on the brake pedal. So it has a really long throw where nothing really happens until you go deep down, and then everything happens really quickly. And it can also feel a clear change from when you use the regeneration and the regular brakes. And even though this car has air suspension, all the micro vibrations are felt through the cabin. If you come from an internal combustion luxury car and then sit in the EQS, it would feel harsher, more nervous and more reactive to what happens on the road. The steering lovely on-center steering, but very, very dead when you go off-center. This car has the optional 10-degree rear wheel steering. It is there to help you reduce the turning radius. So actually driving this and having to parallel park and driving really tight spaces is one of the easiest things I've done. You have the dynamic button down here. So you have sport, you have comfort, which is what the car starts in, and eco. And having it in eco really changes the response from the throttle. So I'm having about half throttle now, and you can see how slow the response is, which is what you want in the eco mode. Having this shape that's very aerodynamic, this really big battery, does mean that a lot of the range anxiety that you can have with an electric car is pretty much gone. Let's put it into sport. And I should mention that the pedals behind the steering wheel changes the regeneration level. So you have no, you have normal, and you have reinforced. And you can see how it changes from D+ to D to D-. I think we'll do a launch actually. No launch control, just hold the brake, hold the gas. And there's very little response from the front or the steering in general. The brakes are very soft and very soft in general. They feel almost mushy. They're effective though when they start to work. The braking pedal is long, and when you start to reach where they actually start to engage the brakes, there's quite a lack of feel from the braking pedal. Evidently designed to be extremely soft, fluid, easy. But when you want to, with this level of performance, you want some more feedback from the steering wheel and brakes. This is more of a proof of concept. I feel that they've shown that they can build a really efficient car with a low drag coefficient, really slippery car, but it's evident that they need to up the charging speeds and lower the weight, because the weight of this car is the biggest hinder of making this an S-Class experience. The interior quality is one thing that I think Mercedes really needs to work on. It looks great, but it feels brittle. Mercedes doesn't have the lead that they once have with the regular S-Class. And that's my final conclusion for the Mercedes EQS. See you next time.